Good afternoon. My name is Jack Ducard. Welcome to Sentinel Circle. If you like our content, please like, subscribe, comment. And if you feel these videos can help someone in need, please share with your brothers. I appreciate you being here today. Let's get started. I got a video here for you, and it's called The Paradox of Hustle Culture by a gentleman of the name of Kevin Sheen. S-H-E-N. Kevin Shen? Probably Kevin Shen since he's Asian. The reason why I wanted to show you this video is because he talks about hustle culture, and there's nothing wrong with achieving something great. But I think that we're taught from a very early age that in order to get ahead in life, let me take a sip of my coffee. In order to get ahead in life, you have to sacrifice everything. And basically kick everyone out of your way in order to get to the top. And we're taught that from a very early age. And I think that we need to, as a group, we need to stop that. History remembers great men. There's nothing wrong about that. But the odds of you becoming the next Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, Andrew Carnegie, whoever you want to pick, they're rare, very rare. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that we are looking at it upside down, right? I think that there's something else out there for us as men. I don't know what that is yet, but I believe that given a chance, we as men can build something better than any of these other men could have done. And I'm not talking about me as an individual building it. I'm saying we as a group, as a collective group, building it together as equals. It was the one game, BioShock. It said, no kings, no gods, only men. And I think that that's really what it boils down to, is a king is a king because of the kingdom. Well, what makes the kingdom? Men. Men who are willing to toil every day, to work every day. You know, I mean, history remembers the bold and the brave, but the bold and the brave are only the bold and the brave because of men like you and I. And I think that given a chance, if we work hard towards a common goal, I think maybe one day we will be remembered for something great. I just don't know what it is yet. I'm still munching on ideas, but anyways, let's get right over to this video, simply because it's very interesting to me. Here we go. I apologize for that.
If you've been online for any amount of time, you've likely heard the case for hustle culture.
He works really hard on his videos.
Wealth,
I like
popularity, happiness, fulfillment. These will all be yours if you sacrifice everything else in life and just work as hard as you possibly can. And we've absorbed this message so much as a culture that being too busy for anything else and being a hashtag entrepreneur is now such a badge of honor, where we feel so good saying that, like we're better than anyone else when we bring it up in conversation or put it in our dating app profiles. I mean, hypothetically, of course. And through the years, research is finally showing us how dangerous this can actually be to have a singular focus to the detriment of everything else.
Yes.
We're now seeing the health consequences from everything from a lack of sleep to a chronic stress that puts a massive amount of strain on the body.
Yes.
And there's another darker side to hustle culture that hasn't been brought to light yet. The ugly effect that it has on the way we view one another. On one level, we begin to see our supportive friends and families as superfluous nice-to-haves. And on the other hand, we begin to see people as these utility pieces, just
Right.
ways for us to make more money
Right.
and to be stepping stones to our own accomplishments.
Right.
And here's why that's such a massive problem. So this is Robert Waldinger.
I'm going to pause here real fast. This is exactly what I'm talking about here is the further up you go, the lonelier you become. And it's simply because you have done everything to alienate those around you. There's a saying that nobody on their deathbed misses all the work that they accomplished. It's possible I got that wrong, but basically you're on your deathbed and you're not thinking about the work, the sacrifice. You're thinking about those that you love and want to be around. And again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't build an empire on your own, if that's possible. But there's more to it than that. I think that it's very unhealthy to just keep, you wake up and you work 16 hours a day and then you sleep out of sheer exhaustion. And that's how it has to be every single day for the rest of your life. Rise and grind is what they call it. And there's more to it than that. Again, I will say that if you do ever own your own business, that's the hardest you'll ever work in your entire life. But at the same time, you have to make time for other things as well. Otherwise, it's just, what's the point? You're going to be up there at the top with no one and nobody. Nobody around you, nothing to show for it except for money that you can't take with you, maybe a nice car or so. And maybe what you don't see is the amount of debt that person took on and they're struggling and they're about ready to go underwater. I don't. But it's not healthy. It's not healthy and it causes a lot of issues. But I will say that working for others also is not healthy either. So the question then becomes, well, what do you do? Well, I think you should work for yourself and work for others, but not in the sense of killing yourself for yourself and others. And there's a very important distinction there. Being able to manifest your own destiny in work and in life, I feel, is very important. But at the same time, having a collective push towards a singular direction is just as important as an individual going their own way. Anyways, let's continue.
For the past 82 years, researchers at Harvard have been studying the lives of 724 men and their eventual spouses and children to understand what actually makes for a fulfilling and successful life. In one of the most viewed TED Talks of all time, he explains to us that
many of our men, when they were starting out as young adults, really believed that fame and wealth and high achievement were what they needed to go after. But over and over these 75 years, our study has shown that the people who fared the best were the people who leaned into relationships with family, with friends, with community.
Clayton Christensen, a professor at Harvard and author of one of the most espoused hustle books of all time, once wrote in an article that people who are driven to excel have this unconscious propensity to underinvest in their families and overinvest in their careers.
And that's
even though
extremely
intimate and
toxic.
loving relationships with their families are the most powerful and enduring source of happiness. And this one hit me hard. It's so tempting and so easy to fall into this trap of constantly working and working, only to let your relationships with family and friends and significant others suffer.
So the question then becomes, because I know what everyone's going to say. This is, if you're barely surviving, you're going to do what you got to do, and I respect that. It's hard to foster relationships when you're working 12 hours a day just to survive. It's hard to go out there, and that's kind of the whole point of Sentinel Circle is it's just you go to one place and there's already men just like you looking for the exact same things just like you. Because it's one thing to be an entrepreneur, it's another thing entirely to just be trying to survive. And that's where a lot of guys are at this point is we I don't want to say we're lying to ourselves, but we're saying that working for ourselves is kind of that liberation, and in a way it's liberating, but you tend to sacrifice security for that liberation. Ben Franklin stated that people who trade freedom for security will get neither of it and deserve neither of them. And that's really what it boils down to, is when you're a W-2 employee, you're trying to get security, but what we're finding more and more is that there is no security there. It's the illusion of security, because you could be laid off at any time, you could be fired at any moment, you have nothing. It used to be you had a job and you'll have that job. Being an entrepreneur, it's kind of the same thing. It could go away tomorrow. You could get hurt and struggle for 6 months with a broken leg. Life can get in the way if you're not careful, and unfortunately, without the sense of community, I picture it as like a triangle. You have yourself at the very top, you got the community, and you got I guess it's not a triangle, but it's more of a balancing, right? Because if you got hurt, if you got sick or something, and nobody was there to care for you, you're screwed. You're going to lose everything. But that's where the community comes into play, is they can help care for you, and by dividing the workload, it becomes more and more manageable. Anyways, we'll continue on.
Because of that. And as if that's not already reason enough to rethink hustle culture, neglecting our social needs fundamentally cripples us in our abilities to be productive towards the goals that we're working toward in the first place.
Good relationships don't just protect our bodies, they protect our brains. Those people's memories stay sharper longer. It turns out that people who are more socially connected are happier, they're physically healthier, and they live longer than people who are less well connected.
Right.
I know it sounds cliche, but we really do need each other more than we realize. We often shape our lives according to the heroes and stories that we look up to. And unfortunately, right now, our world is celebrating the view of this successful person as someone who's a lone wolf, who sacrifices their social needs in order to pursue their definition of success. And the sad thing is that the story is skewed. Genuine human connection is as much a vital part of a successful life as sleep and exercise are. We recognize that we would die without food and water and sleep, But we don't realize that the same is true with connection.
Right.
We need a safe place to feel supported and have our social needs met in order to function as human beings.
Yes.
Because to get to the top of that mountain, we need each other. And if you somehow manage to get to the top all by yourself, you might feel cheated to find it less satisfying than you thought it would be, and that it's more lonelier and emptier without people there with you. And as Robert Waldinger once wrote, it's easy to get isolated, to get caught up in work and not remembering, oh, I haven't seen these friends in a long time. So I try to pay more attention to my relationships than I used to. And I think it's a reminder that we could all use from time to time. That's a tough one, but I'm here in the trenches with you guys. And so yeah, if it's your first time here, welcome. This channel is about how we can be intentional about designing a good life as backed by science.
Okay. So, what did we learn? The important part is having those relationships is probably the best thing you can do for yourself. But again, how do you have those relationships? Finding friends in the modern day is probably one of the hardest things to do. And the default path for that is you go online and you find, like, if you're into gaming, you game, and that's how you find friends. You know, but those friendships, they, to me at least, they're kind of superficial. You know, there's plenty of friends that I have on my Steam account that they haven't been on in several years, and you realize, oh yeah, I hung out with this person, it's been a while. And you don't foster those friendships. You don't foster those connections. My hope with Sentinel Circle is we develop a group of men, specifically men, because I feel that men don't have a lot of places where they can let it all out. And what I mean by let it all out, I really mean let it all out. It's important to be able to get what you're feeling in your heart and in your head out in a way that will never be used against you, because the problem is there are those, I mean, there are men that will do that, but it's more common in the fairer sex, that they will use those things against you. And my hope is by doing that, and by realizing that we all share the same thoughts and feelings, we can go from just talking to doing something about it, changing our way of life in a way. You know, we talk about, like, the culture is changing. Well, the culture changes because we let it change. You know, it has to come from somewhere. Ideas don't just form out of clear blue sky, even though sometimes it feels that way. It's got to come from somewhere. And by being the origin of thought, the origin of idea, we can basically affect change on our society as a whole. You know, the reason why, for example, the reason why OnlyFans is the way it is because people buy that stuff. There is a demand for it. And if there's a demand, well, supply is going to be close behind. You know, as men, we're degrading ourselves by pursuing things and people that do not have our best interests at heart. And we've forgotten how to become an advocate for ourselves. We forgot how to stand up for ourselves because we're not, well, I shouldn't say we've forgotten. We're never taught. We're not taught to stand up for ourselves, and it kind of becomes an issue where we're degrading ourselves just for basics. You know, we have to degrade ourselves for a job. We have to degrade ourselves for a relationship. We have to degrade ourselves for housing. Whose fault is that? By participating in a way, it is our fault. So I'm gonna start wrapping up here. My point is hopefully we all get through this. Hopefully. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take discipline. We can do it. You know, so please, by all means, you know, let's get together, share, talk, you know, and then one day, hopefully, we're strong enough to where we can actually do something about the things we talk about. You know, because unfortunately, talk is cheap. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you through, you know, a mic that I've had for 10 years and a camera that I bought cheaply a couple of years ago. You know, but not much is going to happen if we just sit here and talk. We have to be willing to change, not just ourselves, but the world we live in. And sometimes that change isn't pretty. Sometimes we're going to get pushback on. We'll get through it together. Anyways, if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, comment. If you know someone that needs help, please share these videos with them. Bring them in. Help them out. Together we'll get through this. My name is Jack Descartes, and this is Sentinel Circle. Have a great day.